Okay, I got a new photo open, and so far what we've talked about are the marquee tools, the simple marquee tools. In the last video I talked about the lasso tool and the polygon lasso tool. Again, the polygon lasso tool allows you to create selections based on straight lines, such as click, 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 click. Create a selection that way. Let me go select, deselect. Now the next one's kind of an interesting tool. It's called the magnetic lasso tool, and I will tell you that this tool promises more than it delivers, but it will try its best to try to find the edges of something on your photo. So in front of you I got a picture of a leaf. If I go to the edge here and I start to move my mouse, it's trying to find the edges of the leaf. Okay, and it's not doing a really bad job. By the way, if your hand gets tired, you can just click and then you can continue on. I just clicked here, moving on. Again, it tries really hard to find the edges, but what normally happens is that your hand gets tired when you're doing this, and then the tool tends to go really crazy. Okay, let me try to do this real quickly here. Although in the class you're going to want to make really good selections, take care of going slowly. And it's trying to follow the edge of the sleeve, and it's working really well for this photo because the contrast is very high. I have a very high contrast background from the leaf. So I'm almost done here. Didn't quite pick up part of it. Maybe if I had gone a little slower it would have worked better. Again, now that I've created the selection and I've targeted these pixels, what I can do is I could copy and paste, and I've got the leaf all by itself. And now what I could also do, I could copy these pixels onto another file, meaning I could go to my cat photo here and go edit, paste, and I've got the photo now I've got the photo on this particular file. So you can copy and paste between files as well. Or what I could do is I could create my own background, meaning I could create a new layer above this one and I could fill it with a color. I could go edit, fill, I could select my foreground color, and then I've got my own background. Okay, I've opened up a new photo, and the next set of selection tools I'm going to talk about are right here. You've got the object selection tool, quick selection tool, and magic wand. I'm going to come back to the object. I'm going to select the quick selection tool. This allows you to create selections based on brush sizes. At the top here you have a brush size selector. If I click on it, I can change the size of this brush, hardness and spacing. I'm just going to leave it at size. When I go in, I can actually see the size of the brush that I'm working with. So I'm going to go ahead and paint through these petals. And it's actually doing a pretty good job as I'm painting through this photo. If I tried to click the smaller one or brush through it, it's doing a good job here as well. Okay, if I want to get the center part, I have to continue that selection. Now the whole flower is selected. Again, now that these are targeted, I could copy and paste on a new layer. Okay, turn that back on. Okay, let me try another photo. I'm going to flip back to my leaf photo, and I'm going to use the same tool. Again, make sure that you're paying attention to these icons. You've got the add to the selection and subtract from the selection. I'm going to go to this one and increase the brush size. It's pretty small right now, so let me go up and increase the brush size, and I can swipe through this leaf. I could try to do this, but my brush is too big to actually get the stem, so I would have to decrease the size of this brush pretty substantially. Let me try. I'm trying to do it real careful. And I got a little bit too much here. Now you can use the negative version of this brush or the selection tool, and you can brush away selections you don't want. Okay, so you can subtract from them. So I'm brushing away this little extra bit here. All right, another thing you can do once you have a selection created, so far what we've done is we've targeted an area and we've either deleted it or we've copied and pasted onto a new layer, but you can also inverse a selection, meaning right now this leaf is selected, but I could select the background by just inversing my selection. You can do that by going Select, Inverse. Now it's the background that's selected and not the leaf. So I could hit the delete key and get rid of the background that way. Now, sometimes you might want to decide to select a background because it's an easier selection to make than the actual object itself. Okay, the next selection tool I want to talk about is the Magic Wand tool. This tool is one of the first selection tools when Photoshop came out. This tool is based on a tolerance, okay? The lower the tolerance, the less pixels of alike colors it'll try to pick up. The higher the tolerance number, the more alike colors it will try to pick up. That'll become more clear to you in a second. Okay, I've got a tolerance of 32. If I click in here, Photoshop tried to define, based on this tolerance number, alike colors. Let me go select, deselect, and let's go ahead and increase this tolerance to, let me try 80. I'm going to click again. Now it's tried to find more alike colors. Let me go select, deselect, and increase the tolerance to, let me do 150. Going to click again. Now it actually did a good job. So your goal with this tool is try to find kind of the right tolerance to actually select the object that you want to select. Let me try something even higher and see how Photoshop does. So I'm going to go select, deselect, and I'm going to pop this up to 200 and see how Photoshop does. It actually did a really good job. I'm actually quite fond of this particular tool, but you have to play with the tolerance. Let me try this on another photo. Let me select, deselect, and let me flip to, I've got a pumpkin. Okay, with the pumpkin image and the Magic Wand tool, my tolerance here, I have it set at 150, so let me click in the pumpkin, and it's going to try to pick up orange pixels based on this tolerance number or value. I'm going to click right here. Photoshop didn't do a too bad job. I'm going to select, deselect. This time I'm going to try to select the background. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to select. It did a pretty good job. Grabbed a little bit too much because I can see a little bit of white here. So let me go select, deselect, and let me decrease the tolerance this time. I'm going to do it back at 30, and I'm going to do the background, and it did a pretty good job. It did not pick up where it got gray here. So if I hold down my Shift key, I can actually add to that selection, clicking again, and that adds to the selection. Again, that was holding down my Shift key. You also have add icons here, subtract, so you can toggle back and forth rather than use the Shift key to add. Now that I've got the background selected, okay, I'm going to unlock my layer because I want to get rid of the background. So I'm going to click on the lock here, and I'm going to hit my delete key. So now I've got a pumpkin kind of isolated from its background. Okay, the last of the selection tools I want to talk about is a fairly new one. It's called the Object Selection tool. This one is based on a mode. You've got a rectangle marquee mode and you've got lasso mode. I'm going to do the rectangle mode, and what you need to do is you need to draw a rectangle around your object. So I'm going to pull out a rectangle, and Photoshop magically tries to find your selection based on a rectangle. Depending on the shape, you may want to use the lasso. Let me try that one. Let's go select, deselect. Now the next object would be the lasso. So I could draw a lasso selection, and you'd want to do this if the shapes were a little bit more organic. And it's going to try to make a selection. So it does a pretty good job. Let me go select, deselect. Let me try the leaf. Go back to the leaf. Okay. Now I can't really make a good rectangle here, so I'm going to go to the lasso and I'm going to try to make a lasso around the leaf. A lasso selection. And let go. it did a really good job. Now, if I had a more complicated photo, meaning if the background was more noisy or had more objects on it, it probably would have a harder time. Let's try it though. Let me go select, deselect, and let me go to this one. I'm going to try to select the flower. I'm not sure it's going to do a real good job with the rectangle, but let me give it a shot. I'm going to pull out a rectangle and see what how Photoshop handles it. Didn't do a bad job. I'm a little bit surprised. Let's see if it does a better job with the lasso. So I'm going to go select, deselect, choose the lasso, and make a lasso selection around the flower. Maybe I'll grab this one too, this littler flower, and let's see how Photoshop does. Again, this is a newer tool. Didn't do a bad job, but you can see part of the petals weren't picked up in my selection. So you've got some icons up here. You've got add to selection and subtract. Let me select the add to selection. Let me try to do a lasso around this leaf and add it here. And it picked it up. Let me do one right here. One right here. Let me get this little bit here. And not bad. So again, this is a newer tool. Either it was the last version of Photoshop or the current 2020 version. Those are the selections. What we've gone over are all the marquee tools, the lasso tool, polygon, magnetic, and we have talked about the object selection tool, which we just did, the quick selection tool, and the magic wand, which is based on a tolerance. Those are the selection tools.